So this is what I'm starting with. Has a nice little shape here, which I think is pretty close to the size I need. I'm a little bit worried that if I leave this plastic frame itself in here, that my buttons on the edge are going to be covered up. But if I don't, it's going to look a bit ugly. So either way, something's going to be a little bit off there, I think. This bit here, it's actually one of these ones with a Macintosh system, which I think is supposed to be a little bit better than the standard ones. And I've seen on the net, or I've actually opened this up myself once in the past, but just looking around on the net, I can see that this bit here is quite easy to access. Not too sure how easy that bit's going to be to get at the back of, but we're about to find out. So yeah, like I said, I did actually undo this once, but it was a long time ago, probably about, I don't know, whenever I got this car, 2009 I think I got it. And I took it apart to put this in, which is, I paid about $200 to get this special thing which you can plug into the back of the head unit there, this one, and that lets you just plug this into your phone so that you can play music from your phone without having to put it onto a DVD or whatever, because that's the only other way you can get music into this one. Well, actually it has a mini disc in there, but yeah, nobody uses those, eh? Whatever happened to mini discs? I never had one anyway. Anyway, so down here there's a USB which it's the cigarette lighter. I've been using one of these 5-volt adapters to power the phone while I'm driving around and listening to music from my phone. So none of that's going to be necessary anymore, because I'll just be able to put the music straight onto here with the USB plug, and I'll even be able to power or charge my phone from here if I want to as well. So this is the system that I've had on here so far, and as you can see, it thinks it's in Tokyo. Well, it probably doesn't know where it is, but it's just defaulting to showing central Tokyo there, just to start off with. And I was a little surprised when I got this car to see what a crappy screen this is. It's like 240p resolution or something. And it worked quite nicely when I was living in Japan. We used this all the time when we went. Mostly I used this car to go skiing, actually, and sometimes we would use this Navi. After a while we figured out where to go and we didn't need it anymore, but sometimes we also sellotaped my Nexus 7 on here and used Google Maps, which is a lot more pleasant, but just a bit awkward because it kept slipping down every now and then when the sellotape came unstuck. But since I've been here, it hasn't been... Hey! Oh shit, look at that! I thought this touchscreen was broken. It seems to be doing something. Well, what do you know? Hey, that's weird. I was going to say, right after I got to New Zealand, I had to take this car into a garage to get some work done on it. And when I got it back from the garage, this touchscreen was suddenly not working, and none of these buttons were working, so I just assumed that oh, shit! I haven't seen this for years! I just assumed that they screwed something up in the garage and broke it. But I wasn't too worried because I can't use it here anyway, but... Oh shit, look at this! You can see all the... Yeah, look at that! See, that's where I used to live, that first one there, that's home. I think that second one might be... Daikokuto. Oh, that's the wharf where I had to take the car. When I was leaving Japan, a few weeks before I came back, I had to obviously drive this car down to the wharf, or the docks, to put it on the boat to bring it to New Zealand. So that's what the second one is. Yeah, look at that. S is start, home. G is the goal. So you can see the last trip that I programmed in, or that I selected to drive in Japan. So that was the last time I ever used this. And some of these other ones I think will be ski fields. What's that? Saitama-ken Sakushi? Parking area. Saitama-ken Higashi Matsuyama-shi Matsuyama-cho. That might be my friend's house, actually, that one. Anyway, enough of that. So this is all going to change. Well, this piece was fairly easy to get out, and on the back of it we have bunch of plugs. So this is the main plug by the looks of it, and it has about 14 pins or something in there, and this is where the power's coming in and the illumination, or the dimmer or whatever. There's actually one called illumination plus and one called illumination minus. In brackets, the minus one says dimmer, so I'm not exactly sure what they're for. I mean, I know what they're for, but not sure why there's two of them. But the speaker wires that are in here are not actually being used, and instead the outputs to the speaker are coming out this thing here, which looks pretty nasty, and I don't think I'm going to be trying to modify that. So what I'd like to do is actually make use of this thing that I bought. This is the little thingy that I paid $200 for all that time ago, and at the time it was fairly convenient because it allows you just to plug in a RCA input there, two of them actually, and then this has a plug on it coming from that, which goes to this secondary plug here, which is specifically made for an auxiliary input, I think. There's quite a few pins in there. Oh, there's a spider there too, look at that. So what I'd like to do is just connect my Android output, hopefully the line level. Presumably these are line level outputs. I mentioned in my first video about this that I tried to get some audio out of these to a speaker, and there was just nothing coming out, and somebody in the comments mentioned it's probably line level, which means that speaker wouldn't really make much sound from it. But I looked at the signal on these with my oscilloscope, and there's just nothing there. I just don't get it. So I'll connect it up to this because it's fairly easy to do. You just need one of these wires that goes male to male or whatever that is, and I'll see if it works, because if that works, that would be great, and that would let me put all of the output from the Android through this, which would mean that I don't need to worry about what this is because I just plug it back in and it should work. Plus, I should be able to get a tactile volume control. I'm not sure if tactile is the right word to use, but what I mean is I don't really want to have to use these touch buttons to change the volume, whereas over here it's much easier to change the volume with this, and you don't even have to look down to see where it is when you're driving, because you can just sort of feel for it like that. So that'll be a whole lot easier if I can just do it that way. Incidentally, this is what I got for my $200. Not really sure that it's worth that much money. Don't even know really what it's doing. Yeah, so I've been using this with my headphone output from my phone, and when I looked at that on the oscilloscope, it's very, very low voltage, like 40 millivolts peak to peak, I think it was, something really small. So I'm really hoping that the line out, or the line level output, which I'm assuming is what these are from here, will work with this. If it doesn't work, what I might try is using one of the speaker outputs from these, but these are already amplified enough to drive a speaker, so they were, what were they? I think they were 5 volts each way, maybe? They were quite a high voltage. But if I was to set this to a low volume, it might be okay to come in here without ruining anything. The other thing that I did consider is that this might be able to handle that high voltage input on these, so perhaps that's what all this stuff is all here for, to sort of keep it safe. There's a 12 volt relay in there for some reason, so a bit of a mystery, this thing. Don't know exactly what it's doing. There's another IC in there, by the way. What does that say? Yeah, where's Dave Jones when you need him? I'm sure he'd have a clue. Okay, I just had a little look around online. I realised you don't need Dave Jones if you have Google, right? So I just typed in that model number there, and apparently this thing emulates the CD changer on the top there, although I don't see any output coming from the CD changer on top, but that's a bit weird. But what we do see is that this plug that we plug this thing into there, it has another one of those on itself here, on the back exactly the same. So this, what I mean is that this plug could go into itself, like it's the same one. So what this can do is it lets you switch between your normal CD changer that you have on there to begin with and these two auxiliary inputs. So what you do is, and I did know this part, to switch between the CD changer and that thing, you press CD. So if you're in, say, radio, press CD to get the CD changer, and then you press CD again, and then I think you can press 1 and 2 to switch between those two inputs. So it's not a trivial job that it's doing. Oh, and the other thing I discovered in my online searches is this. Check it out. Rare. It says it's rare and they're charging £200 for it. So I'm a little less disappointed in how much I spent on this now that I've seen that. So there's the information there. Extremely rare. Alright, well, I'm a little bit happier now.
Jedi. Now they say the devil's
look
in
at this.
detail. As anyone who's
So we have
been to
YouTube
an
playing
AA
on
will
the
tell you
Android
this is
thing.
entirely untrue, but it is
And those two outputs that I said before
so let's take a look at some
were just
scenes from The Last Jedi, and I'm going to break down their deep meaning.
Well, you can see that the volume there is being changed by that. So yeah, I don't know why no signal was being visible or nothing sensible looked like it was coming out of these when I plugged it into my oscilloscope or a loudspeaker. But for whatever reason, when I plug it into this little FSL 21 or whatever that thing was called, I am now very, very happy that I have this because it made everything so easy. So all I have to do is plug that in and I'm done. Basically, that's it. Oh, I still need to power it from the car. I'm just powering it from a LiPo there at the moment. So I will have to splice into just the 3 wires in the back. That is the ground and the permanent power and then the enable wire as well. And that's it though. Oh, and you can see this here? So the CD, it says it's been playing that CD track 1 for 10 minutes. But this thing here is pretending to be a CD in order to get this audio to come into it. So it's working quite nicely. Now obviously the fader on this is not going to work, but it doesn't really matter because this one has a fader here somewhere as well. I think balance that one. Yeah, so I can make it go towards the back or the front of the car like that. Or rear, I guess that is. Rear and front, maybe, yeah. Anyway, so that's it, basically. So, I can't really give a whole lot of advice to people who have a similar car unless they have one of these things now. So all of this effort that I'm putting into pointing my camera here and sort of talking about stuff is going to be pretty much for nothing. The original display monitor was mounted on this metal bracket like this, and it's temptingly similar dimensions that way to this thing. Unfortunately, it's not very deep front to back, so the original screen would have been about here at the front. So you've only got, well, the shallowest part of it's here, right? So going to have to try and fit this on there in that thickness. So I might actually have to grind off a little bit of this so that it doesn't hit into the back there. But I think I'm going to try that because the alternative is to try and make something that's going to fit on that, and to get it in the right place so that it sits nicely, poking its pretty little face out through this rectangle. I think I'm better off going with the other mount that I have there, which will get me closer to the desired result, I think. So this is what I've ended up with, just a little bit of that bracket on each end with only one screw, but I think it'll be enough. So this is the piece that was across the middle. It's just completely taken out, and I had to trim off this bit here, so there's not going to be any mounting there. It's only going to be this bit at this end, and I had to elongate these holes a little bit as well. And then over here I had to, sorry, the light's a bit funny here, isn't it? I just had to trim a bit off there to stop the GPS plug from getting collided with. And I'm not going to use the radio antenna on this one. I can use the radio on the car, at least for some of the frequency range. I found a page on the web which says that there are some secret codes that you can use to, like combinations of buttons. If you push on the car stereo, you get different frequency ranges for different countries. I haven't managed to make it work, but I'll keep trying. And I don't listen to the radio much anyway, so that's going to be okay. Okay, so this is what it looks like after everything has been put back together, and I think I got a little bit lucky with that, the bracket that I was using, because it let me center it up perfectly, left to right at least. There's a bit of a gap on the top, and at the bottom we came very close to covering up the screen, but fortunately it is all still visible there. There's a bit of a gap on the sides here, which I'll have to cover up at some point, I think, but it's nice and solid, and it kind of looks like it belongs there. The GPS is right under here. I just stuck it to the bottom of this with some double-sided tape, and it's been working quite well. I was a little bit worried that it might not be able to see backwards too much, so like right up the front would have been better, I think, but it has been working quite well. It doesn't get as many satellites as I'm used to with the U-Blox M8N modules that I use for the planes and everything. It's usually only getting about 10 or 11 satellites, but the accuracy looks pretty good, and yeah, I'm quite pleased with the GPS. It works fine. And I've been using it for probably about 2 hours or so of driving, and I can report that there are some issues which make it a little bit, it's not the greatest user experience in some ways, but they're all minor issues, so I'll just go through those. The first one you may have noticed actually is it's a little bit glossy, the screen there. Would be nice if it wasn't quite so shiny. Actually, it looks a bit worse on camera here, especially when I'm trying to make it look worse like that. Yeah, but it's not bad. It would be nice in the daytime if you could make it a bit brighter. There is a brightness setting on here, but it doesn't seem to do anything. Like if you look on under display, brightness level, and then this thing pops up. It's as bright as it can go, and when I slide it, it's like, I think it might be changing, but it's just, I really can't tell any difference, to be honest. So I'm not sure if that's working or not. Alright, so most of the issues that I'm having, or the niggles that I just kind of annoy me about it, have to do with what it does when you turn it off and then turn it on again. So let's say you go into a shop to buy something and you're just out of the car for a minute or so, and then you come back. It resets a lot of things which are quite annoying. One is that the app that you are using will go away and you'll be dumped back onto this home screen, which means, it depends what app is. For example, when you're looking at maps, it's quite annoying because you lose the zoom level. If you had used pinch zoom to set a specific zoom, instead of just going with the default zoom, which is like when you're driving fast, it will zoom out, and when you slow down, it will zoom in to show you more of the immediate surroundings. But if you've used pinch zoom to set a specific zoom level that you wanted, you'll lose that from your maps, and you'll obviously have to start the app again. Another issue is, well, probably a more important issue is that it changes the volume as well. So we see what volume we're on here. So it's at volume level 40, and I basically have to put this one to full volume and use this to actually control what finally comes through the speakers, because if I don't do that, if I leave this one at a low volume and then I turn this one way up, I can hear the engine noise, like the spark plugs firing and everything. And it's really quite noticeable. I won't demonstrate that here because I don't think you'll be able to hear it on the video, but you can hear the gears changing and all the engine noise as you're driving along. So for that reason, I really have to turn this volume all the way up as far as it goes, and then put this one down to a more reasonable level, like 12 or something. And that sounds pretty good. But anyway, let me just show you what happens. There's actually one other annoying thing that happens when you turn it on again. So let me just start something up here. And I'll just turn it off. And I have to leave it for a bit. If I turn it on again now, it actually will not lose its position or anything. It'll just start up normally. So I'm just waiting for that little LED to go off on there, which will let me know that it's actually gone to sleep. And the thing that I'm trying to demonstrate for you will actually do it. Okay, that's that. Now watch what happens when we turn this on. So wait a few seconds. Alright, problem number one is that because I have this thing plugged into the USB, every single time I'm going to have to do this to make this go away. There doesn't seem to be any way to make it remember your last option unless you're choosing OK. So to see the use by default, that only remembers what you said if you said OK, but if you say cancel, it doesn't remember it. So anyway, every time I'm going to have to do that. Now that obviously that only happens because I have this Q ground control app installed. So you might say, well, just uninstall that app then and that won't happen. But I mean, it shouldn't, you know, it's an inconvenience that I shouldn't have to deal with. The other thing is that obviously the music that I was listening to has stopped and the app that I was using has gone into the background and I'm looking at the home screen. So to get my music playing again, I'm going to have to come in here and start it again. That's not a big deal, but look what else happens, or listen to what else happens. The volume has gone to almost nothing. And if I just check what the volume is on here, 16, or, well, it was 15, I think, yeah, it was 15. And like I say, you're probably not going to be able to hear this, so I won't demonstrate it, but what happens, what I thought I might be able to do is just, okay, I thought I'll leave that at 15, and I'll just use this to bring the volume up to whatever I want. I mean, that kind of works. And it's okay until you start the engine, and then you hear all the engine noises and the spark plugs. It sounds like a sewing machine driving along the road, and it's really quite irritating. So for that reason, every time I get into the car now, I'm going to have to do this and return the volume to full. And then this will be at a more sensible level. So that's a bit annoying. Another issue I've found is that, well, I knew this already, but a lot of apps that play audio will stop when you close the app. This music one is not one of them, so this music's still going there. So there's 3 apps that keep playing audio when you close them, when you come to the home screen. That's the music one, the radio, and this Bluetooth music one, whoops, over there. So if you're using one of those, you can keep the audio playing while you come and do something else, like look at the maps. But if you want to listen to something on YouTube and look at the maps, you can't do that, because as soon as you exit the YouTube app, the maps will turn the audio off from the YouTube. What you can do, though, I found, to get around that is you can use your phone. So I had my phone up there collecting or receiving the internet information, and I figured, well, I'll just play YouTube on my phone here, and my phone will send via Bluetooth the audio to this thing, and that way I can have audio running when I close that, and then I can come over, whoops, and I can use my maps. And that worked quite well to have YouTube playing while I'm looking at the maps. Slightly annoying that I had to do that, and also it makes it quite inconvenient when the end of your video comes and you're like, oh, I want to watch another video now. You're going to have to do something with your phone over here to get another video playing, which is not very convenient, especially when you should just be able to do it on here, which is a lot easier to manipulate this with one hand while you're driving. Speaking of manipulating while you're driving, there was a comment on my previous video about whether this would be dangerous or something, and I have to admit, for this first couple of hours while I've been using it, it has been a little bit distracting, probably a little bit dangerous, if I'm perfectly honest. But I think it's mainly only because it's new to me and I'm sort of focusing on trying to figure out all its features and quirks and stuff, because I know I'm going to have to make a YouTube video to comment on it. I think from this point on, now that I've figured this stuff out mostly, it's not really going to be too much of an issue. Obviously, you're not going to be watching YouTube videos where you really need to look at the thing. Most of the time when I'm watching YouTube, I'm just listening to it anyway. I'm not really looking at it, which is why I said I wanted to have the maps showing instead. So in that regard, it's probably not a big deal, really. Just going back to the issue of screen brightness again, as well as being able to lower the brightness, which doesn't seem like it's working anyway, it would be nice if you can completely turn it off while you're driving at night, because it is rather bright. And I think that's what this button here is, the one that looks like a sun, because that will turn the screen off completely, and then a simple tap anywhere will bring it back again. So that's nice, but this will also stop the audio playing. So if we're watching YouTube,
this show did a great job of making you empathize.
Then your audio's gone. So those three apps that I mentioned before, the Bluetooth audio one, the radio, and the normal audio app, they will keep playing audio, but every other app, it seems like, will stop playing audio. So that's one problem. And since we're looking at YouTube here, another really annoying thing about YouTube is that when it turns off and turns on again, not only does it lose your position and set the volume and everything, but like the video that you were watching is gone as well. So I'll just demonstrate that here. Alright, so video's playing, and if we turn the car off like that, I'll just let that power down properly, and I'll show you what regular Android does in this situation.
50th in some cases of the raw power. When you're
so you're watching a video,
the end of Moore's law.
Turn it off. Oops. Oh, I turned it on, off and on again. Well, so you turn it on, and then provided you don't have to input a password or anything like that, you're right back where you started. Or pause the video, of course, but just a simple touch.
What is the limitation that we're facing technologically? Like, why is it?
But it just puts you right back where you were, you know? Very simple. Now, contrast that with this one. When I turn this on, let's see what happens with this. Well, firstly, we have to get rid of this to start with. But our YouTube app is gone. Our volume has been reset, so I'm going to have to put that up again. But on top of that, when I start YouTube again, this app, even though it was in the background, we've lost our video. Like, everything we had there is just completely gone. So, I don't know. All these things I'm complaining about, they're not really big deals in themselves, but they do add up, you know. So overall, it's a decent system for the price. I think $100 is pretty reasonable, but as a, what would you call it, an integrated system for a car, it is rather lacking in a few ways, which would be nice to see it improved. And they're all software issues, so maybe if there is some sort of a possibility of updating this with a different operating system or something else in the future, might be interesting to try, especially if it could fix these little gripes that I'm having. But anyway, that's going to be the end of this video, another slightly long one, but hopefully it was mildly informative for some people out there. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.